Hi, we're with Scott Casber, Takedown Radio with Dennis Hall, World Wrestling Resource. I'm John McGovern. Scott, thanks for your time. Just want to talk to you about October 21st, the showcase with the Ukrainians. Rulon Gardner making his comeback, and the Greco wrestlers that Dennis is preparing and training for this event. We're excited that you're coming to announce. What are your thoughts about that event coming up October 21st in Dubuque?
Well, first of all, I believe in you guys. I believe in John, Shirley. I believe in Dennis and Rulon. But what I believe truly deep down in my heart is that we have done an injustice to Greco as a discipline. We need to pick it up, and I think you guys are on the right track. So I'm voting with the resources of the radio show. We'll come in a day early, do the radio show early on Saturday morning, then get ready for the event. It'll be my pleasure to tell the world about what's going on. People will be able to listen to the radio show on the iHeart app, but I'm very excited to be able to focus and feature our Greco stars, the young and sometimes the more mature of our Greco stars. There's a lot of ground that's been covered over the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, we're excited about you coming up. There's not always a lot of RTC events for athletes in America to compete in. We have the New York AC coming up in November. Dennis and I thought it might be good to give some of the athletes maybe a tune-up match too if they're available. I think Big Game has an athlete. Schwabe said Wyatt Volker might compete. But some of these D1 programs have these RTC athletes, and sometimes they can use a match without having to go overseas. So we thought it'd be a good time before December U.S. Nationals to get that going. So, Dennis, you want to kind of talk about the event, Ukrainian national team coming, and your thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to start at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure of the order of the bouts yet, but the Ukrainian women's national team is going to be on campus, and they're going to be training with us for about 5-6 days, and they want to get in front of the U.S. And showcase their skills, but also, just promote women's wrestling in the United States. So that happened to coincide with the time we were setting up the showcase for the Greco athletes. We don't get to compete much in the United States in Greco, and I thought, hey, let's try and get our guys some matches. We have probably about 5-6 guys that are training full-time here in Dubuque, and just kind of give them something to train for and to sharpen their skills. And to me, it's not about winning or losing in a showcase. It's about going out there and competing, plus also getting data. Where do we need to get better? What's not working? What's working well? How do we make adjustments so we can go into the U.S. Open in December and have a good showing there, and then carry that over into the Olympic trials? So I'm pretty excited with Rulon coming up here. He's going to be up here this next month training for probably two trips up to Dubuque. Ben Provisor's coming in for a full week. It's just going to be great having those guys in the room and, helping train our guys at the same time, showing them, hey, this is how you do it too. So we're trying to really do something special here in Dubuque, and hopefully it takes off at other colleges throughout the country.
Well, that's an important thing and I don't remember who brought it up, but I thought it would be great to pick a couple of our selected athletes from whatever region they live in, and talk to a Kevin Dresser, talk to a Tom Brands, talk to a Cale Sanderson, and say, hey, we'd like to put a single match on as a display, as an exhibition prior to or during intermission at one of your home dual meets. Wouldn't kill them, and boy, wouldn't it help.
It would help, because it might show some guys, hey, I want to do that. Especially guys, at the Division I, they have a lot of athletes that went out and wrestled in Fargo at Greco, or wrestled Greco at Fargo. I was one of those guys. I went to the University of Wisconsin. I won Fargo 3 times in Greco, placed one time in freestyle my sophomore year. Junior year got hurt, but they took a chance on me at Wisconsin, and it would have been nice to have something like that.
I think it would be important to showcase not just on this one day, but carrying it forward through the season. Um, and I know Dennis and I know John. I know both of you guys have plenty of friends in the collegiate ranks. The bigger the programs, the better, of
Yeah.
course. But I think it would be at least worth a phone call.
Yeah.
And then if we find some traction, then we can find somebody to underwrite possibly.
Yeah, I know. Tom Ryan at Ohio State definitely, supports Greco. He, and has athletes there that wrestle Greco. So he'd be a good contact possibly to get something like that going too.
Well, in terms of October 21st, we're excited to do the radio show there that day. But in advance of that, I'd like to commit at least 4 weeks of interviews on the radio of people that are affiliated with the event or that will be competing in the event or coaching in the event. If you can supply me those names and phone numbers, I'll get a book on the show so we can start really promoting those individuals that people are going to want to come out and see or watch on Patreon or however we're going to be streaming it, because I think that's an important key, is making it available. And I'm not sure if you contacted 5 Point Move or any of the more pure Greco wrestling sites, but I think it'd be important to get them involved too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is Timmy Hans knows about it. He's probably gonna do some stuff on it, talking about it, trying to get people to know that we're actually doing something to support Greco. So, I think it's important. We got to get the word out there, and we got to let people know. I mean, USA Wrestling, I'm going to talk to Justin out at USA Wrestling. I'm going to tell them what we're doing and have them do a little press release on what we're trying to do here in Dubuque. I think, if we can get more people seeing that, hey, we need help with Greco-Roman wrestling, it's only going to make it better for the U.S. athletes.
That's right. We've got this is a Big Ten theory. It's not us against anybody else, because I cover all types of wrestling, but the idea is that we need to bring the wrestling family together in support of each other. It's not just John McGovern and Dennis Hall and Reuland Gardner. Those are the guys that are right out in front. You guys are right out in front, but we have to bring everybody to the table and invite them to the task, because this is a big job. You just don't build the popularity of a sport overnight. You've got to put boots on the ground. You've got to put guys on mats, women too.
Yeah.
Inviting Clarissa Chun and her athletes to come work out with the Ukrainians, I think would be an outstanding job. An outstanding idea. She's very forward-looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a forward-looking thing. A lot of these kids can come here and they can look up to these heroes like a Major League Baseball game and just meet with them, connect with them. It's an intimate setting, small environment. Stuff at the grassroots level, kind of what you've done as a promoter for quite a while now. And we're losing some of our great wrestling promoters like you. Dan McEwen, like just some of the Iowa guys, and you're like a legend in there. We're really appreciative of you being involved with the event. Historically, you've done so much for the sport. So, were you involved with that Gable Classic? I can't remember, way back when he brought them. Yeah, I thought you were. Yeah, and that was a great event too, because a lot of people at that time, wrestling wasn't really on Flow or video, so you had to go to live events, and so a lot of the people didn't even see a freestyle athlete in their own home turf wrestling a match like that, let alone Greco still being kind of left by the wayside in a lot of communities. They can maybe now watch it on Flow, which we couldn't have passed, but this gets them front and center. My son's 8 years old, gets them down on the mat with some of these guys, making them see who these guys really are as people off the mat and aspiring to be that guy someday, having a dream for a kid to be a great wrestler and a great human being is kind of what you can do at these grass level events. So
no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it would be important too, because we really haven't talked about streaming the event, but the whole goal, in my estimation, is eyeballs on the sport.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's not about winning and losing. Wouldn't it be great if we won our share or more than our share? But at the same time, we will win if we turn 100, 200, 500,000 people into people that are interested in our product. And that's what we have to sell. We have the athletes to sell in terms of, maybe their family in northern Michigan wants to watch it, but can't make it to the event. Maybe in New York City at the New York Athletic Club, they want to have a watch party for athletes that, that have come and wrestled at the NYAC. And that goes across the country. I could offer a couple dozen examples, but if Rockfin, which I think is probably the best track in terms of streams that don't go down, and it's available and it's affordable, I think that might be an outstanding, not just a fundraiser, but an opportunity for us to really tell the story. Actions speak louder than words, and there are no greater action stars than our Greco stars.
Yeah, well, we got Matt Shannon coming to do the event, and originally he was in on flow, but if he could do it on track, kind of get it out to folks. And the reality is these kind of events aren't necessarily about making the money; it's about making the impact and
Yep.
covering your expenses. And the more people offer that, like you said, the more rising tide will raise all ships in the sport of wrestling. And we just got to galvanize together on that kind of stuff to help the athletes versus always just running tournaments with big trophies to attract little kids to pay big entry fees.
And basically that's what we boiled the sport down to. Right now we're enjoying a modern day renaissance, as it were, for the sport in terms of popularity, with women, really leading the way in terms of sheer numbers of additions to the sport. But men are coming along too. It's just a little slower. But the women are doing an outstanding job, and we need to include them in everything we do.
Yeah, so having the Ukrainian national women's team here, Coach Hall starting up the women's wrestling program, Ukraine going through what it's going through. Our athletic director is thinking about bringing them front and center, maybe announcing them at halftime. It's our homecoming weekend. It's going to be a big weekend. We'll have a clinic going on before that with Barry Davis, Olympic medalist, helping out at RTC. Randy Lewis will be up here. Ben Provisor, obviously Olympian, will be competing, and Roland Gardner competing, and then Dennis Hall, training and coaching them up with Greco, and then our RTC. It'll be a great event, great weekend. The clinic is going to be 3:30 to 5:30, and then the showcase starts at 6 p.m. And then after, we plan to have a social, let them meet with everybody, have some appetizers, and just getting to know, some of the Olympic stars, and having these kids. Brady Coons is on a world team. Couldn't probably ask for just a more classy role model as a world level athlete. These guys don't make professional athlete money, but he's got professional athlete professionalism. I just love the guy. These guys are kids that you want your guys looking up to. So it needs to be a great event. We're looking forward to building the wrestling in Greco, women's, and throughout our Midwest tri-state area.
Well, guys, give me a list of names and phone numbers of those
Will
that are
do.
committed to the event, and I'll start work on my end as far as getting them booked on future shows.
Okay.
We want to make as big an impact as possible, and I think, if you talk to Clarissa Chun, I think if you talk to the guys at USA Wrestling, get them on board in terms of publicity. After all, this is one of their 3 sports.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
Well, we really appreciate you, Scott. We know you don't always make millions for doing all this stuff, but you've really done a lot in the sport, and we really appreciate you coming out here and being a part of this. And so we hope to make it an annual thing.
I love it, and I appreciate the offer. I wouldn't turn it down for the world, and I'm looking forward to being there the night before, and then the morning of to do the radio show live, and then of course be there for the event itself later on in that day. Have you talked to Randy Couture yet?
No, I reached out to him about coming up and doing some stuff. Hadn't heard back from him, but I'm gonna give him a call again and try and get on him and see if he's got that weekend open. I left a message. I just gotta be persistent, keep knocking, and they'll answer, I guess.
Well, if you need help, I'll be happy to call him and rattle his cage a little bit. I know he's been busy with
Yeah.
a couple film projects, but
Okay.
he seldom turns down unless he's got a dire event that
Yeah.
he can't get out of. But
He's a great
I think
guy. Just
he's a
another
wonderful
humble guy.
He's turned out to be a tremendous ambassador for our sport,
Yep.
and And a wrestling purist, just like you guys. He's a wrestling purist.
Yeah.
You know, to think that my cousin took him out of the hallway in 7th grade and said, "Hey, Couture, show up at 3, you're going to wrestle." He said, "Okay, coach, what's that?"
Really?
And look at him, he ends up being an Olympic alternative.
Yeah. That's
All right,
great.
fellas, I appreciate the opportunity
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you so much for the call. And we'll look forward to talking to you a little later on next week.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott.